When a drought-stricken rancher finally breaks his 5-year silence with his wife, their desperate night of passion uncovers a buried secret that could destroy everything they've built together. The leather reins slip through Sarah's calloused fingers as she watches her husband's silhouette against the dying sun. 5 years. 5 years since Thomas last looked at her the way a man looks at his wife. The dust from his horse's hooves settles on her blue cotton dress. The same dress she wore on their wedding day, now faded to the color of winter sky. Tonight feels different. The air crackles with more than just the approaching storm. Thunder rolls across the Montana plains as Thomas dismounts near the barn, his shoulders carrying the weight of another failed day searching for water. Sarah's heart hammers against her ribs. She knows that look in his eyes, desperation mixed with something else, something she hasn't seen since before the accident that changed everything between them. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of rain that may never come. Sarah's bare feet whisper across the wooden porch as she approaches Thomas. His hands shake as he removes his hat, revealing hair prematurely gray at 32. The drought has aged them both, but it's the invisible wounds that cut deepest. "The Henderson place sold today," Thomas says, his voice rough as sandpaper. "Bank took it for half what it's worth." Sarah's fingers find the worn wedding ring on her left hand, a habit born from 5 years of nervous silence. "How much time do we have?" 3 weeks, maybe 4 if I can convince Morrison to extend the loan." She steps closer, close enough to smell the leather and sweat on his shirt, close enough to see the fine lines around his eyes that weren't there when they married. "Thomas, there's something I need to tell you about the North Pasture. I found—" "Not tonight, Sarah." His voice breaks like a dam giving way. "Tonight I can't carry this alone anymore." His hand reaches for hers, trembling. The first touch in 5 years sends electricity up her arm. She remembers this hand tracing her face on their wedding night, promising forever, before the miscarriage, before the silence that grew between them like a cancer. "I've been a fool," he whispers. "A goddamn fool." They walk together toward the house, their shadows stretching long across the yard. Sarah's mind drifts to the hidden discovery she made 3 days ago while checking fence lines in the North Pasture, a discovery that could change everything. But Thomas's fingers intertwined with hers make her forget everything except the warmth of his touch. Inside their modest home, the silence feels different, charged. Thomas lights the oil lamp with steady hands, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The same walls that witnessed their joy, their loss, their slow drift into separate worlds. "Do you remember our first night here?" Thomas asks, settling onto the edge of their bed, the bed they've shared in body but not in spirit for so long. Sarah sits beside him, careful to maintain the invisible boundary they've built. "You carried me over the threshold, said this place would be our kingdom. I meant it." His voice cracks. Every word. The lamp flickers, and in its wavering light, Sarah sees the man she fell in love with. Not the distant stranger who shared her roof, but the dreamer who promised her the world. The man who held her while she cried over their lost baby, before grief built walls between them. "Thomas, about what I found in the North Pasture." He turns to face her fully, his eyes reflecting the lamplight. "Can it wait? Please. I need my wife back, just for tonight." A sharp knock interrupts the moment. Thomas's jaw tightens as he recognizes the heavy boots on their porch. Sheriff Morrison stands in their doorway, hat in hand, his expression grim. "Evening, Thomas, Sarah." Morrison's eyes dart between them, noting their proximity on the bed. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk." Thomas stands, his body language shifting to defensive. "If this is about the loan extension, it's not." Morrison steps inside uninvited, his badge catching the lamplight. "Got word from the territorial office. They're sending surveyors next week to reassess property lines in this area. Seems there's been some irregularities in the original land grants." Sarah's blood turns to ice. The discovery in the North Pasture suddenly takes on new meaning. She exchanges a glance with Thomas, whose face has gone pale. "What kind of irregularities?" Thomas asks. Morrison's smile doesn't reach his eyes. The kind that could invalidate certain claims. The kind that might make some folks very wealthy and others homeless. He pauses, letting the threat sink in. Of course, if someone were to find evidence supporting their claim, old documents, survey markers, that sort of thing, well, that might change everything. We don't have anything like that, Thomas says quickly. Too quickly, Sarah thinks. Morrison notices too. Funny thing about old homesteads, Morrison continues. Previous owners sometimes left things behind, hidden things, valuable things. His gaze settles on Sarah. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Mrs. Patterson? Sarah's mouth goes dry. The leather satchel buried beneath the loose floorboard in the north pasture barn suddenly feels like a burning coal in her chest. I don't know what you mean. Morrison tips his hat. Well, if anything turns up, you'll let me know. Won't you? For the good of the community. The threat in his voice is unmistakable. After he leaves, Thomas turns to Sarah, his eyes searching. What was he talking about? What did you find? Sarah leads Thomas through the moonlit pasture to the old barn, a structure that predates their ownership by decades. Her heart pounds as she kneels beside the loose floorboard she discovered 3 days ago. Thomas holds the lantern steady as she pries up the weathered wood. Inside the hidden compartment lies a leather satchel, its contents wrapped in oiled cloth. Sarah's hands shake as she unfolds the protective covering, revealing a stack of documents, a surveyor's compass, and a small leather journal. Thomas reads over her shoulder as she opens the journal. The entries are dated 15 years ago, written in a careful hand. June 15, 1878. Morrison came again today. Offered me twice what the land is worth, but I know what lies beneath the north ridge. The silver vein runs deeper than anyone suspects. I've hidden the real survey maps where he'll never find them. July 2, 1878. They killed my cattle last night. Morrison's men, though he'll deny it. I'm running out of time. If something happens to me, I pray whoever finds this will use it wisely. July 10th, 1878. This is my last entry. I can hear them coming. The real property boundaries are marked on the map. The silver rights belong to whoever owns the North Ridge. Morrison has been stealing land for years, falsifying surveys. The proof is all here. Thomas's hands tremble as he unfolds the survey map. The original property lines show their land extending far beyond what their deed claims, encompassing the entire North Ridge where the previous owner discovered silver. Sarah, Thomas breathes. This means we own mineral rights worth a fortune. Morrison's been stealing from families for years, selling their land to mining companies. Sarah stares at the documents, her mind racing. The man who wrote this, what happened to him? Thomas flips to the final page of the journal. A newspaper clipping falls out, an obituary for Jacob Henley killed in a tragic accident when his horse threw him from a cliff. The same cliff that borders their North Ridge. Morrison killed him, Sarah whispers. And he'll kill us too if he finds out we have this. Back in their house, Thomas paces like a caged animal while Sarah sits at their kitchen table, the documents spread before her. The weight of their discovery presses down like a physical force. We have to take this to the territorial authorities, Thomas says. Morrison can't get away with murder. And what happens to us in the meantime? Sarah asks. You think Morrison will just let us walk away? He's the law here, Thomas. Who's going to believe us over him? Thomas stops pacing, his eyes meeting hers. So what are you saying? We just let him steal our land? Let him get away with murder? I'm saying we need to be smart about this. Sarah's voice is steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. Morrison suspects we found something. If we disappear or turn up dead, it'll look suspicious. But if we sell the land to him willingly... You want to sell to the man who's been robbing us blind? Sarah stands, moving to the window. In the distance, she can see lights from Morrison's ranch, a sprawling empire built on stolen land and blood. I want us to survive this, Thomas. I want us to have a chance at the life we planned. Thomas joins her at the window, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. What kind of life would that be? Built on lies and cowardice? A living one, Sarah says softly. Jacob Henley chose to fight, and where did it get him? A shallow grave and a falsified accident report. The silence stretches between them, heavy with unspoken fears. Outside, storm clouds gather, promising rain that may come too late to save their dying crops. There's something else, Sarah says, her voice barely above a whisper. In the journal, Jacob mentions a daughter, says she moved east after his death, but that she's the rightful heir to his claim. Thomas turns to study her face in the lamplight. You think she's still alive? I think Morrison made sure she never knew what her father really left behind. As Thomas examines the surveyor's compass, Sarah notices something odd about its weight. She turns it over in her hands, finding a hidden catch that opens a secret compartment. Inside, wrapped in silk, is a small daguerreotype and a letter, and the photograph shows a young woman with Sarah's eyes and Thomas's determined jaw. The letter, written in Jacob Henley's hand, is addressed to my beloved daughter, Elizabeth. Sarah's hands shake as she reads aloud. My dearest Elizabeth, if you are reading this, then the worst has come to pass. I pray that someday you will return to claim what is rightfully yours. You are not just my daughter, you are the daughter of this land, born here beneath the Montana sky. Your mother and I built this place with our own hands, and it belongs to you by right of blood and birth. Thomas stares at the photograph, then at Sarah. Elizabeth Henley. Your maiden name was Elizabeth Henley. Sarah's world tilts on its axis. The woman in the photograph could be her twin. That's impossible. My father was a shopkeeper in Denver. He died when I was 12. What was his name? Sarah's mouth goes dry. Jacob. Jacob Henley. The truth hits her like a physical blow. Oh God, Thomas. This is my father's land. I'm the rightful heir. The revelation recontextualizes everything. Her inexplicable connection to this place. The way the land seemed to call to her when they first arrived. The dreams she's had of a man's voice calling her name across the prairie wind. Your mother, Thomas says gently. She never told you? She said he died in a mining accident, that we had to leave Montana because there was nothing left for us here. Sarah's voice breaks. She was protecting me. She knew Morrison would kill me too if he discovered I was Jacob's daughter. Thomas pulls her into his arms, and for the first time in 5 years she doesn't resist. His embrace feels like coming home, like finding a piece of herself she thought was lost forever. We can't let Morrison have this land, she whispers against his chest. It's not just about us anymore, it's about my father's memory, about justice. A soft knock at the door freezes them both. It's past midnight. No honest visitor comes calling at this hour. Thomas motions for Sarah to hide the documents while he approaches the door, rifle in hand. Who's there? It's me, Thomas. Open up. Sarah's blood turns to ice. The voice belongs to Deputy Collins, Morrison's right-hand man and Thomas's oldest friend. The man who stood as best man at their wedding, who helped them build this house, who shared countless meals at their table. Thomas hesitates, then opens the door. Collins steps inside, his badge glinting in the lamplight. His usually friendly face is grave, his hand resting on his gun. Evening, folks. Sorry to disturb you so late. What's this about, Jim? Thomas asks, but Sarah can hear the wariness in his voice. Collins removes his hat, running nervous fingers through his thinning hair. Morrison sent me. Says you might have found something that belongs to the county. Something that needs to be turned in for the good of the community. We don't know what you're talking about, Sarah says, stepping closer to Thomas. Collins's eyes are sad but determined. Sarah, I've known you both for 5 years. You're good people. That's why I'm here instead of Morrison himself. He wanted to come with a full posse, tear this place apart board by board. Thomas's grip tightens on his rifle. And you talked him out of it? I bought you time. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. But he's coming, Thomas. And when he gets here, he's going to find what he's looking for one way or another. The betrayal cuts deeper than any knife. Collins, their friend, their confidant, the man who helped them through their darkest days, is Morrison's spy. Has been all along. How long? Sarah asks, her voice hollow. How long have you been reporting to Morrison? Collins can't meet her eyes. Since the beginning. He knew who you were before you ever set foot in this county, Sarah. Knew you were Jacob's daughter. He's been waiting for you to lead him to whatever your father hid. The room spins around Sarah. Their entire life here has been a lie, a carefully orchestrated trap. Morrison allowed them to struggle, to nearly lose everything, knowing that desperation would eventually drive them to search for anything that might save their land. The drought, Thomas says, understanding dawning in his voice. Morrison's been diverting water from the upstream ranches. He's been starving us out deliberately. Collins nods miserably. He needed you desperate enough to tear this place apart looking for anything valuable. He figured if Jacob hid something here, you'd eventually find it. And you helped him, Sarah says, her voice like winter wind. You watched us suffer, watched our marriage nearly die. Also, Morrison could steal my father's legacy. I'm sorry, Collins whispers. I'm so damn sorry, but it's too late to change it now. Give me whatever you found, and I'll try to convince Morrison to let you walk away with your lives. Thomas raises his rifle, pointing it at his oldest friend. Get out. Thomas, please, you don't understand what you're up against. Morrison owns half the territorial government. He's got judges, senators, even some federal marshals in his pocket. You can't fight him. Watch me, Thomas says, his voice deadly calm. Collins backs toward the door, his hand still on his gun. I'll tell him you weren't here. Buy you maybe an hour head start, but after that... He shakes his head. After that, you're on your own. After Collins leaves, Thomas and Sarah stare at each other across the kitchen table. The documents lie between them like a loaded gun. Evidence that could destroy Morrison's empire or get them killed trying to use it. We could run, Thomas says quietly. Take the documents to Denver, find a federal judge Morrison doesn't own, and leave how many other families to suffer what we've suffered, Sarah asks. How many more Jacob Henleys will Morrison kill to protect his secrets? Thomas sets down his rifle, his shoulders sagging. Sarah, I can't lose you. Not again. These past 5 years, I've been dead inside thinking I'd lost you forever. Tonight, for the first time, I felt alive again. I felt like we might have a chance. Sarah reaches across the table, taking his hands in hers. We do have a chance. But not if we run. Not if we let Morrison win. He has an army. We have a handful of papers and a broken-down ranch. We have the truth, Sarah says fiercely, and we have each other. That has to count for something. Thomas studies her face in the lamplight, seeing the woman he married beneath the years of pain and silence. What are you proposing? We make a stand. Here, on my father's land. We use these documents to expose Morrison for what he is. And if we die trying... She squeezes his hands. At least we die fighting for something that matters. The weight of the decision settles between them. Thomas knows the odds. Morrison has money, power, and ruthless men willing to kill for him. They have truth and determination, but in the lawless territories, that might not be enough. There's another way, Thomas says slowly. We could make a deal with Morrison. Give him the mineral rights in exchange for clear title to the ranch land. Keep enough to rebuild our lives. Sarah's eyes flash. You want to negotiate with my father's murderer? I want us to survive this. I want a chance to be your husband again, to maybe try for another child someday. The mention of children hits Sarah like a physical blow. The baby they lost 5 years ago, the loss that drove them apart, suddenly feels present in the room. She sees the longing in Thomas's eyes, the desperate hope for a future she's not sure they'll live to see. If we make a deal with Morrison, we become complicit in his crimes, she says. Every family he destroys after this, every life he takes, their blood will be on our hands too. And if we fight him and lose, we'll be just as dead as your father. What good does that do anyone? The moral weight of the choice crushes down on them both. Survival versus justice. Love versus honor. The easy path versus the right path. Outside, thunder rolls closer, and the first drops of rain begin to fall. Sarah stands and walks to the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. In the distance, she can see torches moving across the prairie, Morrison's men coming for them. "They're here," she says quietly. Thomas joins her at the window, counting the lights. At least a dozen men, maybe more. Sarah turns to face him, her decision made. "I won't dishonor my father's memory by making deals with his killer. If we're going to die tonight, let's die as ourselves, not as Morrison's pawns." Thomas nods slowly, understanding passing between them. "Then we make our stand." They work quickly, gathering the documents and hiding copies in multiple locations throughout the house. Sarah writes a letter explaining everything, addressing it to the territorial governor in Helena. If they don't survive the night, maybe someone will find the truth and finish what they started. "Sarah," Thomas says as they prepare for the confrontation, "I need you to know, these past 5 years, the distance between us, it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because I loved you too much. I was afraid that if I touched you, if I let myself hope again, and we lost another child." "I know," she whispers, touching his face. "I was afraid too, afraid that if I let you back in, you might leave again, like everyone else I've ever loved." "I'm not leaving," he says, pulling her close. "Not tonight. Not ever." Their kiss tastes of rain and desperation and 5 years of unspoken longing. For a moment, the approaching danger fades, and they are simply a man and woman who have found their way back to each other. The sound of horses in their yard breaks the spell. Morrison's voice booms across the yard, amplified by the storm. "Thomas, Sarah, come out, and let's discuss this like civilized people." Thomas and Sarah exchange a look. They both know Morrison's idea of civilization. "We're not coming out, Morrison," Thomas shouts back, "and you're not coming in." "I'm afraid I am, son. You have something that belongs to me, and I mean to have it." "It doesn't belong to you," Sarah calls out, her voice carrying across the wind. "It belongs to me. I'm Jacob Henley's daughter, and this is my father's land." A moment of silence follows, then Morrison's laughter, cold and calculating. Well, the little bird finally remembers her nest. "Your father was a stubborn fool, girl, just like you're being now." "My father was an honest man. You murdered him for his land. I did what needed doing, just like I'm going to do tonight." The first shot shatters their front window. Thomas pushes Sarah to the floor as bullets tear through the wooden walls. They crawl toward the back of the house, where Thomas has prepared a defensive position behind an overturned table. "There's too many of them," Sarah gasps as gunfire erupts from multiple directions. Thomas peers around the table, counting muzzle flashes. They're surrounding the house. "We need to get to the barn. There's better cover there." "The documents?" "Leave them. We've hidden copies. The truth will survive even if we don't." They make a desperate dash through the rain toward the barn, bullets whining past their heads. Sarah feels one tug at her dress, close enough to burn her skin. They dive through the barn door just as Morrison's men close the circle. Inside the barn, Thomas grabs his hunting rifle while Sarah loads his pistol. The irony isn't lost on her. They're making their final stand in the same barn where she discovered her father's hidden legacy. "Sarah," Thomas says, checking his ammunition, "if something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. If it does, you run. You take the north trail up to the ridge and you keep going until you reach the territorial road. Promise me." Sarah looks at her husband, really looks at him, and sees not the distant stranger of the past 5 years, but the man who promised to love her forever, the man who's willing to die for her father's memory and their shared principles. "I promise," she lies, knowing she'll never leave his side. Morrison's voice echoes through the barn. "Last chance, folks. Come out with your hands up and the documents in hand and I might let you live." Thomas and Sarah position themselves at opposite windows, creating crossfire angles. The rain pounds on the roof like bullets, masking the sound of approaching footsteps. "On three," Thomas whispers. "We go down fighting." "Together," Sarah agrees. 1. The barn door explodes inward. 2. Morrison steps through the smoke, flanked by armed men. 3. The gunfight is brief but vicious. Thomas's first shot takes down Morrison's lieutenant. Sarah's pistol barks twice, sending 2 more men diving for cover. But there are too many of them, and soon the barn fills with gun smoke and the smell of blood. Thomas cries out as a bullet tears through his shoulder, spinning him around. Sarah screams his name, abandoning her position to reach him. It's the opening Morrison needs. "Enough!" Morrison roars, his gun trained on Sarah's head. "Drop your weapons or I'll paint the walls with her brains." Thomas, bleeding and barely conscious, lets his rifle fall. Sarah raises her hands, her pistol clattering to the floor. Morrison steps closer, his eyes wild with greed and rage. 20 years I've been looking for those documents. 20 years of careful planning, and you two nearly ruined everything. "The truth has a way of coming out," Sarah says, her voice steady despite the gun at her head. "Not this truth. Not anymore." Morrison signals to his men. "Burn it all. The house, the barn, everything. Make it look like they died in an accident." As his men move to obey, Sarah makes her choice. She lunges for the hidden compartment where her father's documents are stored, knowing Morrison will kill her for it, but unable to let her father's sacrifice be meaningless. Morrison's gun swings toward her, his finger tightening on the trigger. The shot echoes through the barn. But it's not Morrison's gun that fires. Deputy Collins stands in the doorway, his smoking pistol trained on Morrison's chest. The corrupt sheriff staggers backward, a look of shock and betrayal on his face. "Jim?" Morrison gasps. "What? Why?" "Because I'm tired of being your dog," Collins says quietly. "Tired of watching good people suffer for your greed." Morrison falls to his knees, then topples forward into the hay. His men, leaderless and outnumbered by Collins and the federal marshals who suddenly appear behind him, throw down their weapons. Federal Marshal Davidson, the lead officer, announces, "We've been investigating Sheriff Morrison's activities for months. Deputy Collins has been our inside man." Sarah stares at Collins in shock. You were working for the federal government?" Collins nods, holstering his weapon. Morrison suspected everyone except the man who'd been loyal to him for 15 years. It was the perfect cover. "But you told us he was coming." "I had to make it convincing. Morrison was watching me too closely. If I'd warned you directly, he would have known." Collins kneels beside Thomas, checking his wound. "I'm sorry about the deception, and I'm sorry it took so long to build a case strong enough to bring him down." Marshal Davidson examines the documents Sarah retrieved. "These will be crucial evidence in the federal case. Along with Deputy Collins's testimony, we should be able to unravel Morrison's entire operation." As dawn breaks over the Montana plains, Sarah sits beside Thomas while the doctor tends to his wound. The rain has stopped and the air smells clean and new. Around them, federal agents catalog evidence and arrest Morrison's surviving men. "Is it over?" Thomas asks weakly. Sarah takes his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin, the steady pulse of his heartbeat. "It's over." "And us? Are we over too?" Sarah leans down and kisses him gently. "We're just beginning." 6 months later, Sarah stands on the porch of their rebuilt home, watching Thomas work with the mining engineers who are surveying the silver vein on the North Ridge. The federal government has confirmed her ownership of the land and mineral rights, making them wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. But wealth isn't what makes her smile as she watches her husband approach, his arm still stiff from his injury but his eyes bright with purpose and love. "The engineers say we're sitting on one of the richest silver deposits in the territory," Thomas reports, pulling her into his arms. "And what do you think we should do with all that money?" Sarah asks, leaning into his embrace. "Build a school, a hospital, maybe help some of the families Morrison ruined get back on their feet." Sarah nods, thinking of her father and the legacy he left behind. He'd like that. He'd like knowing his sacrifice meant something. Thomas's hand moves to rest on her still flat belly, where their second chance at parenthood grows. What do you think he'd say about his grandchild? I think he'd say we better raise them to fight for what's right, no matter the cost. As the sun sets over their land, truly their land now, Sarah reflects on the journey that brought them here. 5 years of silence and separation, one night of desperate passion, and a choice between safety and justice that changed everything. Sometimes the greatest treasures are buried deepest. Sometimes love requires the courage to fight for it, and sometimes the truth is worth dying for, but living for it is even better. The wind carries the sound of laughter from the town below, where families Morris and displaced are rebuilding their lives with help from the Henley Foundation, named for a man who died fighting corruption and lived on through his daughter's courage. In the distance, thunder rolls across the plains, but this time it promises rain that will come, crops that will grow, and a future built on truth instead of lies. Sarah takes Thomas's hand and leads him inside their home, where the lamp burns bright against the gathering darkness, and love, patient, enduring, and finally free, waits to welcome them home. If this story of love, justice, and redemption in the Old West moved you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us bring you more incredible tales of courage and romance from America's frontier days. Coming up next week, The Outlaw's Bride. When a notorious gunslinger's past catches up with him, only his wife's love stands between him and the hangman's noose. You won't want to miss this heart-pounding tale of loyalty, betrayal, and the price of redemption. Until then, keep riding toward your own happy ending, and remember, sometimes the greatest adventures begin when we find the courage to fight for love.